After learning how to train, without a doubt, the most helpful thing I have learned when it comes to my running is how to fuel myself in my long runs. So today, I'm going to share some of the things that have helped me in my journey, and we'll have some extra help from an expert. Let's get into it. In my first ultra, I made all the rookie mistakes, one of which was that I didn't manage my fueling consistently throughout the race. This meant that the final third of the race was utterly miserable, but I always say, pain is the best teacher. The pain I experienced in that race sent me on a journey to figure this stuff out, and I'm here to share it with you guys too. However, when it comes to nutrition, I'm very much not the expert, so someone I've learned from over the last couple of years is dietitian and ultra endurance expert Julie Shope. I reached out to Julie to get her expert opinion on some of the things that I've struggled with while building up my distance. So let's hear from Julie. For me, one of the things I've learned from you, and the biggest game changer in terms of my nutritional knowledge while running long distance, has been to eat consistently every hour. So how do you advise people to go about that? And do you have any special tips for that?
Fueling every hour is incredibly important, especially for ultra running, because we can fall so far behind on calories if we forget to eat every hour. So the recommendations would be to start with your baseline, figure out how much you're consuming right now. And then from there, most people, I recommend having a goal right around 60 grams of carbohydrate every hour. And then for ultra running in particular, this is unique to ultra running or events that take longer than 6 hours. We're aiming for about 5 to 10 grams of protein every hour as well. And then, of course, we have our fluid and our sodium recommendations, which for most people, bare minimum would be about 14 ounces of fluid or 400 milliliters of fluid every hour. And then bare minimum, right around 250, 300 milligrams of sodium every hour.
I'm going to have to go look up my milligrams on my salt tablets just to remind myself. But yeah, that's a good thing to use as a baseline. Some people I've seen talk about total calories, and everything you just said there was grams of carbs, grams of protein, grams of fat. Why do you go that way? What's the benefit of that?
So carbohydrates are your main source of energy while you're running. They're the most easy to digest. They're the most easily accessible for your metabolism. You're going to be burning fat. Like there's this whole thought process of, fat adaptation in the ultra running world, and your body will absolutely be burning fat for energy in the background. However, in order for your body to be burning that fat for energy, you have to have carbohydrate in it to start that whole metabolic process. And you want to be consistently burning carbohydrates on top of your back burning fat burning, so to speak. So when we're picking out our fueling, it's really important to prioritize fueling that's higher in carbohydrates. If we're only looking at calories, then foods that are high in fat or high in protein can squeeze their way in there. And those aren't going to be the most beneficial, easily accessible energy for your body to use while you're out there being active for hours on end. So if you're only paying attention to the carbs, you can easily miss some of these like big kind of red flag foods that might actually end up causing you issues later down the road. Like if you eat too much fat on a run, that might cause you to have heartburn or indigestion, or it might make you stop and go poop a bunch. And then too much protein can sit really heavy in your stomach. So that's why prioritizing looking at the carbohydrate is so important. And that's why I encourage that approach.
Nice. And you may have alluded to it just there. What do you think in your experience, the number one cause of gut issues, particularly in the long distance ultra stuff? Lots of people complain about it. Have you noticed a pattern with that?
I have noticed a pattern with that. For most people, I would say that it's under fueling or under hydrating that is causing these issues of nausea, throwing up, maybe dry mouth, bloat, having to pull off and go to the bathroom a bunch, whether that's pooping or peeing. Those can all be related to not getting enough nutrition to meet your energy demands while you're out there running. So
That's
for
not what I thought you were going to say.
yeah.
So not having enough actually makes a negative reaction when you do eat? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, and that's the majority of the clients that I work with. We find out, so we find their baseline of what they're fueling with. Most people are not able to meet those hourly recommendations that I mentioned earlier. And for some people, they have even higher recommendations than that. If they're not meeting those, then yeah, it's your body's way of kind of revolting and saying like, hey, you're not taking care of me. What happens when we get dehydrated? We don't feel good, right? What happens when we get underfueled during the day? We have low energy and we don't feel good. So it's just that on steroids when we're out
Yeah.
there running for hours on end. So yeah, most of the time I would say that it's underfueling and being dehydrated. There's other things that play into that too. Waiting too long to eat can trigger GI upset, but that also stems from getting behind on fueling. And it also allows your stomach um, to almost like shut down, is kind of the words that I like to use. So when we're running, all of the blood flow goes to our working muscles and it's shunted away from our digestive tract. And so for if we wait a couple of hours to eat while we're out on race day or even a long run, then you get 2 or 3 hours into the long run and take your first bite of food, then that will cause some upset for your stomach and it'll feel
Mm.
really uncomfortable to continue to eat. So that plays a role in all of it as well, in addition to just falling behind on your energy demand.
I didn't think it was going to be that. That wasn't something that crossed my mind. So I guess I thought it was going to be a link to the macro ratios. I thought you were going to say most people get that side of things wrong. Or just wrong food choices in general. But yeah, that's surprising, but it makes a lot of sense. So I got those things wrong at the beginning when I first started ultra running. My first ultra was a complete mess in terms of my pacing strategy and my nutrition strategy. But the number one thing that's helped me is eating consistently. And since I've done that, I've never actually had any gut issues. So that would make sense that the thing that I've been really aiming to do is hit those targets. There was one time though that I couldn't do it, and that was during my first 100-mile ultra. And the thing that surprised me the most there was during the night. First of all, I just found the night so hard generally. When my circadian rhythm was telling me to be asleep, I just couldn't eat. And I wouldn't necessarily classify that as a gut issue because I wasn't feeling sick or nauseous in any way, but I just couldn't take on calories. And it was like my body just wanted to shut down. Is that trainable? Could I have trained myself to be able to take calories then, or is that just one of those things?
Yeah, what you are explaining or describing is really common. So, yeah, and it makes sense, right? Your body's like, what the heck?
Mm,
You want me to eat right now? I'm normally sleeping. So it would make sense that your body would revolt a little bit and not want to consume foods. So part of that is, I think, trainable physically. Part of it, I think, is trainable mentally, right? Because you just know that you have to override that like lack of desire to eat when you're in the middle of the night running. So yeah, part of it I do think is trainable. The more you practice running at night and eating at night, the easier it might become in theory, hopefully. Um, and part of it too is maybe being a little bit more strategic about the types of foods that you're planning on eating in the middle of the night. Maybe you make it less chewing foods and more soft foods like applesauce or gels or smoothies, or liquid based fueling that maybe you can just drink rather or sip
mhm.
or slurp rather than having to chew, because that chewing and your stomach is all like, this is just not right, right? So, and you're doing a lot of things that are just not right when you're running an ultra marathon to your body. So part of it is being prepped for your body to be like, yeah, that doesn't seem right, and you just being like, yeah, it is right, we have to do this right now. And so yeah, so part of it's a little bit mental training, part of it could be strategic in your fuel plan, and part of it could be maybe you go on 1 or 2 night runs during your training blocks and then prep yourself for what it might feel like on race day and get an idea for that.
No, makes sense. And it is such a bizarre thing to do, isn't it? To run for 24 hours. So it makes sense that there's
Yeah.
a bit of a struggle along the way. But yeah, I think for my next one, which is likely to be 24 hours, then I'm definitely going to do a bit more practice with that. So that's been really helpful. Thank you. That was so helpful. And I'm so grateful to Julie for coming on and helping us out. If you need more nutritional information, I will leave her details below. And if you want to see what I'm up to in my training for my next 100K mountain ultra, I will leave that video here. And until next time, happy training.